First of all, welcome back to Sip and Spin. My name's Skylar, and over here in velour pants and a Ouija board shirt is Brittany.
Hello. We have a variety podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing, and sometimes it's dead silence.
Yeah. So last week, Audacity messed up our recording pretty bad.
Which is why our cooking episode, if you listen to it, is bananas all over the place.
Yeah, apparently Audacity just decided to silence us for no reason.
We had enough of our shit.
It was just like randomly, there were just moments of like dead silence where it stopped picking up.
Talking.
Yeah, while we were talking. So there was a lot that was lost out. Multiple conversations, some fun stuff like about AO3, you know, our usual gab. Some more serious stuff. We talked about Palestine, and all of that got cut out. It just didn't record for whatever reason. And now Audacity is also being weird, and it's showing us 2 lines of audio. So we're hoping that maybe Audacity just updated. Like last week it had like needed to update maybe, and this is just what the new update looks like. So if there's any issue with the audio of this episode, we are sorry, but we aren't gonna know until we edit.
Yeah, so we're giving this one more college try to see if we can stick with this program. And I guess that'll seal the deal or not.
So yeah.
But otherwise, I guess, how are you? I imagine you have something you'd like to talk about.
Yes, I'm good. I got a new tattoo yesterday. I finally got my Raven Cycle tattoo.
Yay!
And I love it. It looks great.
It looks really good.
Everything I ever wanted. So big shout out to Yano for drawing it for me. And big shout out to Tony, my tattoo artist, for bringing it to life and doing the color that he did on it, because the color looks great and I love it so much. I couldn't be happier with it, honestly.
Yay.
How are you?
I'm good. Other than the editing hell I've been in this week.
Yes. Yeah, that's been a lot.
Also just been a lot of editing.
That is true. So many videos.
3 separate videos and then a podcast episode. That was hell on earth.
So you just have not stopped editing this week.
Yeah, I'm sick of our voices. Gotta be honest. It's been a lot of us in my head.
Never good to have that us in anyone's head.
No, probably not. But no, I'm good.
Good.
Yesterday was Oktoberfest, so I was at that, which was fun. It was hot, though, yesterday. It got much hotter than it had been. And I got convinced to go dance in front of a crowd at the stage, only with, like, 5 other people, because I couldn't tell this Faye lady no, because she's like, will you come dance with me? And took my hand, and Richard's like, go dance. And I looked at him to save me, and he was just like, go dance! So I got dragged in front of all these people. So that happened. Good thing I was pretty tipsy. Otherwise, I would have been mortified.
So mad I didn't get to witness that.
I would have made you go with me if you were there. So
yeah. No, I was, because I actually got done with the tattoo quicker than I expected. Like, it was about a 5-hour session, so it wasn't like too long. Yeah. I was kind of wondering
all the detail.
Yeah. I was wondering how long it would take, but yeah, it only took about 5 hours, and I was like, oh, I would have time to go to Oktoberfest, but then I went to the store, and, like, my leg hurt so bad after,
I'm sure.
And I was like, I'm laying down.
It's a big piece, yeah, I don't blame you for that at all.
Yeah, and I only flinched once.
Nice.
Yeah, because, like, this part hurt so bad, like, and I didn't flinch when I was getting it, but I don't know if it's just where it was, or since how late we were in the tattoo when he did the shading on the pendant, like, it either because it was so, like, late in the tattoo and it was just really tender, or if that was just like a sensitive spot on my leg. I was like, but I stuck through it. But then when he was doing the second shading on the trees, the sage color, we were already it was like about, 4 hours and 45 minutes in. And luckily, like I said, it was just loose shading and wasn't any line works, but I flinched a bit and I was like, I'm so sorry. And he was like, it's fine. Like, you've been sitting here for basically 5 hours just with me abusing your leg. Like, I'd be surprised if you didn't flinch. And I was like, well, okay, but I still feel bad.
Yeah.
I love it. I couldn't stop looking at it yesterday.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, and I still can't stop looking at it now. Like, I just want to see it all the time.
See it all the time. Well, what are we doing today?
So today we're doing paranormal.
Yes.
So that's exciting. And the drink was Brittany's choice.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot it was my choice because I thought I was just picking a drink that I liked, and we had enchiladas for dinner, and I was like, oh, a Bloody Mary sounds like it would go well with that. And also it's like, oh, this is the last episode of October for the podcast. So I was like, oh, Bloody Mary kind of fits, it's got the blood in it. I forgot it was my choice, so I don't even know if Skylar likes Bloody Marys, but that's what we're having.
We're about to find out. Cheers.
Yes. They're definitely like an acquired taste. I didn't used to like them.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll probably have more.
Okay, there is more.
Now, before we do get into recording, since our stuff last week did get cut out, I kind of feel like now would be a good time to kind of, talk about and go over everything happening right now. So, yes, right now, Palestine is being airstruck by Israel constantly, over and over again. And Israel is trying to make it seem like, they're doing this because of the Hamas. But that is not what is going on. What is happening right now is ethnic cleansing, basically. Genocide. It's genocide. And our government is funding it.
Yeah.
And that is very not okay. And the media, especially Western media, is trying so hard to frame it like Israel is in the right, but they are not. They are committing genocide right now to Palestinians. They are trying to wipe Palestinians off the face of the earth. They have already committed multiple war crimes. 1, bombing hospitals. 2, bombing schools. And 3, bombing churches or mosques or any place of worship. Yeah. So they are not trying to, take out the Hamas. That what they are doing is they are attempting to wipe Palestinians, Palestinian culture, Palestinian infrastructure off the face of this earth as we speak. Now, there are donation links, but right now, what I'm understanding is those donations are not making it to Palestine. Most of it is stuck in Egypt, and Israel is not letting it get through. And even the United States has said that they have donated, $10 million to give humanitarian aid to Palestine, but they're currently also giving billions of dollars to Israel, who is actively blocking Palestine from receiving any aid because they have got Palestine shut off from the rest of the world. Yeah. They don't have water. They don't have electricity. They've bombed bakeries, so they don't have food. And so as far as my understanding goes, donations are not making it to Palestine right now. But if something does change, there are many links that can be found where you can donate. There's websites that if you can't spend money or can't send money, there is a website that if you just click on the website, it will donate money because of ad revenue. That website has ads on it, so every time you click on the website, it gets the ad is paying for the donation if you can't send money yourself. So there is that. There's also a text code that you can text. And I've retweeted all of those. So I will go back through my Twitter and find those and send them to Brittany so we can link them in the description. But just kind of be aware that right now, as far as I know, donations are not making it to Palestine. There are other things you can do. Write a letter to your government that you are wanting to, write a letter to your representative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Write a letter to your representative and, say that, like, you do not want to support Israel. You don't want, like, you do want the ceasefire. You don't want your tax dollar money funding genocide.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happening. All of our taxpayer money is currently being used to fund genocide, which I did not agree to.
Oh, it's disgusting.
So, yes, I will try and find all of those so we can link them down in the description below. And just keep sharing. That is another thing you can do to help. And that's something that most Palestinians are
one of the biggest
asking for, is just to keep sharing, keep talking about it. Anytime, like, they post a video, like, share it, make sure it gets seen, because that is going to be one of the things that can help them the most as well. Because right now, the biggest thing is like propaganda. Israel is spreading so much propaganda. The Western media is spreading so much propaganda that is very anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian, and there are ways you can combat that by continuing to share and spread the correct information. And so, every time you see something, share it.
Yeah.
And so,
I think it was mostly what we talked about, yeah. Mm-hmm. I got dropped.
Yes. So, free Palestine.
Yeah.
Cheers. Free Palestine. Okay. Well, shall we begin?
Yeah, we can begin.
Unless you have anything else you would like to add or say.
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk about, I am going to talk about some gates to hell.
Okay.
America.
Have you seen that? On God. For real. Have you seen that lady on TikTok that's doing all these, like, places you should go visit if you don't want to be alive anymore?
No.
I just saw like 4 of her videos this morning while I was laying in bed scrolling through TikTok.
You have something you can tell us? Why does she pop it up?
I don't know. But hold on, I'll see if I can find, because I think I liked them, or at least I hope I liked them, because I was very about it. I was like, hello, you, because like the way yeah. Deadly places you shouldn't visit. You probably shouldn't go here. Weird as fuck cities.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. Gates of Hell. What you're talking about. That's funny. No, I've not seen her. I like it.
I love the way she speaks too.
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny.
I don't know if you're gonna cut it out, but because probably we can't just play TikTok audio.
I'll probably have to cut out.
But if you are interested, the person we're talking about, her account is called K4554NDR4. Yep. We'll link it.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about Gates of Hell a little bit, or Gates to Hell. So all around the world, much like the Russia one that she talked about, there are various locations that are perceived to be gates to hell. They're often found in regions of unusual geological activity, particularly volcanic areas or a lot of lakes, caves, mountains, etc. Stuff with like something going on there already. And they all have acquired like a lore and a reputation for being a portal to the underworld through like what has happened in the past and like storytelling, how much of anything comes about. So for example, like legends from both ancient Greece and Rome record stories of mortals who entered or were abducted into the netherworld through similar gates. There's one I was going to talk about in Greece, which like ties directly into the Hercules lore, but I felt that one in particular fell more with mythical. Like a few of them feel like they are more mythical than paranormal, so I could potentially talk about them in the future. But just know, if you know like anything about a lot of like especially Greek or Roman mythology, you've probably heard of at least some of their portals to hell, because that was like the caves of Manapan or something. Okay. In Greece is one of the gates of hell, supposedly. Gates of hell are also used in a lot of religious context. So, for example, in 1878, Reverend Thomas DeWitt Talmage delivered a widely reprinted sermon titled The Gates of Hell at the Brooklyn Tabernacle. So this was based on the scripture Matthew 16:18, and it was a message by Jesus to Peter. Quote, "On the rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it." End quote. So in this sense, the the Reverend's gates were more, like, metaphorical, so included, like, infamous literature, dancing, indiscreet apparel, and, you know, alcohol.
Of course.
The frowned upon things by the church.
They would hate us.
Oh, yes. They would style themselves if they could. More religious things. So in ancient Hindu tradition, the Milky Way and the Canis star, like constellations, were considered to form the border between, I was going to look up these, but I kind of forgot. Devakala, heaven, and Yamakala, hell. I probably butchered that, but basically they're heaven and hell. The Milky Way is the border between that. So the Milky Way would form the dividing river between heaven and hell, and then Canis, major and minor, represent the dogs that guarded the gates of the hell. So that was, like, in their tradition where gates of hell come in.
Okay.
And there's, like, so many others. I'm not going to go into all of them. In August of 2010, the History Channel did premiere a show entitled The Gates of Hell. In this show, they visited caves and volcanoes in Nicaragua, Belize, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, and Ethiopia to examine the origins of similar myths in those areas. So the show, it featured archaeologists, scholars, explorers, and others working in the field. And if I would have known that beforehand, I probably would have watched it, because it's probably interesting. So while there's probably hundreds of gates to hell, there are about 17 that are the most popular. I'm only going to talk about, like, 2 of them now, because that'd be a lot. And like I said, some of them felt more, like, mythical to me, especially when it comes heavily from mythology, like the ones in Greece did. But then there's a really popular one in China, there's a really popular one in Japan, there's one in Hawaii, they're all, like, spread out all over, and they're all very interesting. And the one in Russia, the crater, was also there. That's one of the 17 popular ones. But the first one I'm going to talk about is in New Orleans.
Okay.
Of course it is. So
they do like to drink there.
They also love, you know, voodoo. So this is going to be a little bit like voodoo mythology.
Gotcha.
So this is the Gates of Guinea.
Okay.
So according to voodoo mythology, the dead are sent to a purgatory called Guinea before continuing to travel to the deep waters. There they'll be reunited with their ancestors. So it's kind of like their purgatory before they reach their happy ending. So Guinea is presided over by the Loa, or a spirit known as Baron Samedi. Samedi? Could not find out how to pronounce it. No one knew. So I'm just freeballing. Just know it's New Orleans, so I'm probably butchering it all. It's all very French, I'm sure. Often depicted as a skeleton in corpse paint, dressed in a top hat and tails. So, fancy.
Love the vibe, honestly.
The Baron is seen as a powerful symbol of death and rebirth. The Baron guards the crossroads, which form portals to the other worlds. So the most important of the portals that is guarded is the Gates of Guinea.
Okay.
Some, in regards to the Gates of Guinea, believe that powerful voodoo masters can open the 7 gates to the spirit world and reclaim the souls of the dead, or turn them into zombie-like creatures for nefarious purposes. So that's not great. Voodoo practitioners in New Orleans have claimed that the 7 gates are located in the various local cemeteries around. So scattered around Canal Street, which runs through the city's French Quarter, which is also, like, always a fucking haunted area whenever you hear anything about New Orleans. So that tracks, it makes sense. Because at one point there were a total of 17 different burial grounds located in that district, and that would put the street at the heart of basically a, quote, city of the dead. So that would make sense if there was, you know, portals to hell there.
Brett is thinking about getting stationed in New Orleans.
Ah.
I so will be going.
That would be cool. Maybe you guys can go and try and open the Gate of Guinea.
I'm like, I'll just live there for like 3 weeks and be like, okay, I will never be sober.
Yeah. That'd be the scariest part, is being sober. Nearby sites such as the St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 are likely spots for a gateway, as well as other potential locations like St. Louis Cemetery 2, the Greenwood Cemetery, the Cypress Grove Cemetery, and the St. Patrick Cemetery. So they're all believed that there is one of the gates in each of those.
I kind of forgot, like, St. Louis is like a real person, and it has stuff named, and I was like, when did we get to Missouri?
No.
I was like, how did we get to Missouri? Hold on. I feel like I lost the plot.
Some believe that the crucifix sorry, I can't read my own sentence. Some believe that the crucifix form of Baron Samadi's personal sigil indicates the Canal Street crossroads, which then hide the final gateway to Guinea. So the theory is that on all of these tombs and like all these different cemeteries, there's gonna one specific tomb or like a grave that will have his like sigil on it, and that's how you open the gates. Is you have to go to all of them. That's the popular theory. Going with that theory is the popular theory that the tomb of I never pronounced her name correctly, Maria Laveau, the powerful 19th century voodoo priestess there. So the popular theory is that her tomb, who's in the St. Louis, the first one, I think, marks the first star of the sigil. So they think that she is the first gate you have to open. If this is true, this would place the gates of Guinea somewhere around this crossing of Canal Street and Basin Street. So just finding the gates, though, isn't all there is to it. The order that the gates are opened in is also important. So not only do you have to find them, you have to open them in the correct order. If opened incorrectly, the gates can allow dangerous spirits to enter the world of the living, and they'll feed on the living. So
dope.
You might
cool.
not want that.
That's great.
Because I'm pretty sure they'll go for you, the opener of the gates.
Probably.
So there's a traditional rhyme with voodoo practitioners that's said to describe the proper timing for opening the gates. Quote, 7 nights, 7 moons, 7 gates, 7 tombs. End quote.
I feel like there weren't any clues.
I don't know how that would help you, but that's apparently the rhyme.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like there were just no clues. I feel like that was very informative. Like, there's at least 7 of them.
Maybe if you practice voodoo, it means more. I don't know. So not only is order and timing crucial, it's also necessary that anyone seeking to open the gates pays respect to the guardian at each gate. So they need to be appeased with ritual offerings, and each one is different and unique, and they are all said to be quick to anger. So, I don't really see, like, the draw
any benefits to doing
trying
this.
To open, like, just to go, I guess, reclaim a soul. I don't know what your goal is in finding the gates. Unless you're just like, hey, let me go to hell real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's said that the 7 gateways are at their most active and therefore easier to open on traditional annual holidays. So, Christmas, New Year's, Mardi Gras, All Saints Day, All Souls Day, Ancestors Day, 12th Night, and St. John's Eve. So if you're really wanting to try to open the gates of Guinea, do it for Christmas. Make it a family tradition. I don't know.
Yeah, every Christmas we try and open the gates of Guinea.
Everyone bring their ritualistic offerings for all of the spirit guardians.
Yeah, we're not doing presents this year. Bring ritualistic offerings and make sure they are good enough.
Yes. And there was like a whole list of like who each guardian was, but I wasn't going to try and pronounce all the names. So I was talking about the main head honcho one, who is the last one. So that's all I really have on the gates of Guinea. But I always like that one because I just like New Orleans spooky shit because it's just a spooky place.
When I had the Zillow app, it was a real problem for me because I just kept looking at houses in New Orleans and like apartments in the French Quarter, and I was like, I'm gonna move here one day. I don't think I could just because it's hot.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I don't like sweating.
Yeah. I'm like, I would love to visit New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'd love to be in New Orleans, but I'm like, I don't think I could live there. Like, it's too warm.
Yeah, I would love to visit, but could not live.
Definitely need to visit in the fall or like the winter as well, or spring.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to go to Louisiana during the summer. I will melt.
Punch you in your face.
I will melt on the concrete, like, immediately. We'll get to Louisiana and I will be a puddle.
Same. The second and the final one I am going to talk about is the one that I actually like the most. So this was kind of what started this because I knew about this and I always think this one's fascinating. So we're going to the Czech Republic for the Huska Castle.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of the Huska Castle?
No.
Okay. It's fascinating to me.
Okay.
And I'll show you a picture because it looks...
I'm strapped in. I'm ready.
It's a wild story. Okay, so located north of Prague, Huska Castle is a 13th century Gothic castle that supposedly sits atop a gate to hell.
Perfect.
You know, we love that. What every castle needs. So
if your castle doesn't have a gate to hell, is it really even a castle?
Yeah, what are you doing? Okay, so the castle is built atop a cliff in the countryside, middle of fucking nowhere, north of Prague, hidden by this thick forestry. The castle had no source of water or fortification. It was mysteriously isolated from all trade routes. Also, the majority of the windows are fake in the castle, etc. Basically, this castle was built not with the intention of anyone living in it. They just like, let's build a castle and then make it weird as hell. Like, just the windows being fake. So I was like, wow, that's crazy to me. And, like, no running water, like, nothing like that. Like, you cannot live in this castle.
Rip to you, but I'm built different.
Such people were around. King Ottokar II of Bohemia was the person who built the castle. He built it sometime between 1253 and 1278. The original construction that he built omitted stairs from the courtyard to the upper floors, and most of the defenses were built facing inwards.
Sure, yeah.
Leading to the belief that the purpose of the castle wasn't to keep invaders out, but rather to keep something trapped inside.
I see. Yes. I see now.
Yes. So
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
So before it was even constructed, though, like the reason it became a thing was so before the castle was there, demonic beings were said to just emerge from the hole in this like crack in limestone on this top of this hill and feed on villagers and their livestock and drag them back into the abyss, never to be seen again. So that was going down in this village.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so then they were like, oh, the king's like, I'm going to build a castle atop of it. And then he had the gateway sealed with stone plates and then had a chapel built above it. So the chapel was dedicated to Archangel Michael, you know, who led God's armies against Lucifer's fallen angels. And this specific detail is another reason why some believe that this gateway actually did exist or possibly still does, because you can kind of still see the remnants of the dedication there. So that's also interesting. Because again, this is like in the 13th century. Like, by 1639, the castle was occupied by a Swedish mercenary named Oronto. It was said that he was a black magic practitioner. And he allegedly toiled, like, it just messed around nightly in his lab in an attempt to create an elixir for eternal life. So he was just fucking around up there in this castle, like, I'm gonna find eternal life, you know, on this gate of hell. His practices in the castle instilled the villagers with so much fear that eventually 2 local hunters assassinated him.
Damn.
Because they were terrified of what he was gonna unleash.
Yeah.
Essentially. I will say, I will put a note here. So, people have been looking into, like, the history of the castle, and scholars have found some cracks in the history, and the evidence of Oronto's existence specifically might be a little dubious. So they don't know, like, just take that how you will, with a grain of salt. I didn't look too much into it, but I did want to make a little, like, caveat, like, maybe he wasn't a black magic practitioner, like, maybe that's not what happened, but...
He was just a guy.
Just so you know. just saying.
He was just a fella.
Just a weird little man. So, legends say that prisoners who were facing the gallows were offered full pardons if they agreed to be lowered into the bottomless hole and report back what they saw. Because they want to know what the fuck was going on. And if you look in this hole, which I'll show you a picture, it's creepy as hell, you cannot see the bottom. No one knows how deep it is. It seems infinite. So,
I'm not a prisoner who's at risk of being put on the gallows, but get me on a rope. I want to go down there.
So there was someone who was like, okay, into this, because he was young and healthy, and he's like, this is like my chance at a second life, basically.
Yeah.
He's going to be killed either way, right?
Yeah.
So he happily accepted this. Within seconds of being lowered into the hole, he started screaming and crying to be raised back up. When pulled from the hole, his hair had turned white and gray, and he had seemingly aged. A few days later, he died due to unknown causes. That's still a legend. I don't know how true that is, but I have seen that specific story multiple times. So, like, they love it. Take that as you will. I don't think anyone else has gone back down in the hole after what happened to him. Continuing with some crazy history, during World War II, Nazis occupied the castle. So they got it and they did experiments within it. Some say it was occupied because they wanted to investigate whether the gateway to hell was real, as feverish occultism had consumed the higher ranks in the Nazi party, and they wanted to, like, use basically the power of hell to their benefit. And so they think that they were doing strange black rituals and, like, all this stuff to try and, like, bump up the Nazi army. And then locals at the time reported strange lights and horrifying sounds coming from the castle during the Nazi occupation. Which, okay.
You know, all this scientific experiments that Nazis performed on Jewish prisoners could also be an explanation for that. Like a secluded place for them to do horrible, horrible things to...
Oh, yeah. Don't doubt that either. But apparently, like, and that is something I did know, like, a lot of the higher rankings in the Nazi army, they did start to get, like, turned to the occult because they thought it would make them more powerful, which is not a very known thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought, like, their big thing was, like...
It was, I can't remember...
all scientific, like, because a lot of the stuff that they did was all, like, horrible, inhumane scientific experiments.
I think it was more desperation towards the end type of thing.
Gotcha.
And it was only with a few. It wasn't, like, everyone or anything, and I'm not even sure if it was something that Hitler would have liked, you know, so I don't know. But I have heard that before.
Yeah, I did not know that at all.
The castle has been open to the public since 1999.
Hell yeah.
And is still considered one of the most haunted places on Earth.
Happy birth year to me, baby.
Yeah, you're the reason.
I came into the world and they were like, we've got to do something.
You came through the hellhole.
I probably did, let's be real.
The Prague Daily Monitor reports that many visitors are baffled by its counterintuitive architecture, which I just always think that's what is fascinating to me.
Weird architecture is so, I love it.
And they're unnerved by the fresco paintings in the chapel that are still there, and you can still see it. The strangest of all the paintings depicts a creature with the upper body of a human woman and the lower body of a horse. While it was unheard of at the time
That's just a centaur, right?
Yes, but it was unheard of at the time to include depictions of pagan mythology in a church, which is where this was.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's even more strange that the centaur is using its left hand to shoot an arrow, because left-handedness was associated with the service to Satan in the Middle Ages. So that was thrown up in this church, and people were like, what's going on here? And
weirdly enough, that has, like, affected even, like, our society to today, because so many people, like, back in, like, you know, early 1900s, like, up until, like, you know, 60s, 70s, would try and train their children out of left-handedness.
Yeah. And you wonder if it's, like, I'm sure that's ingrained in it somehow, but I always just looked at it as, like, people just didn't want their kid to be weird. Or, like, yeah.
So I always thought it was because of, like, the religious outlook.
See, I actually didn't know about that until I was doing this research. I didn't realize that was a religious thing. The centaur, like the mythology, sure, but then I got to the left-handedness, I was like, really? I didn't know that was associated with Satan. Now Sydney makes a lot more sense. She's left-handed. And she's a Gemini.
Hey, Sydney is an angel and a delight to be around.
The nicest person.
Sydney's, like, literally the nicest person alive.
She really is.
That's why, like, I make jokes about coming out of the hellhole, but really, like, I'm also one of the least likely people to...
That's what she wants us to think, guys.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, the depiction of the centaur is what historians believe that the painting is a hint to the creatures that lurk beneath the church, like what they're keeping out, essentially. And still to this day, tourists have reported seeing headless horses and demonic winged beasts lurking in the halls, as well as claiming to hear screams and scratching noises from beneath the chapel floor.
Well, that makes sense why now all the defenses are pointed in, because if they're, like, escaping through the hole into the castle, they're probably like, please kill it.
Yeah, but I always thought that castle was fascinating.
That sounds so interesting. Please show me a picture.
I am about to. So, for one, it's just a square little thing right up on a mountain in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. It's beautiful. It's a very well-built castle.
And then that's That's the whole.
I want to go down there.
Take a put a drone down there.
Yeah.
Do something. And be like, this is the chapel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just, I want to go to there.
I need to be there right now.
But yeah, those are my two gates of hell that I was going to talk about.
Yeah, I did not know any of those, so...
Well, good.
Very new information to Skylar.
Hopefully they were paranormal enough and good enough for our final episode of October.
Happy Halloween.
Halloween weekend when this comes out.
Yes.
Yay!
I will be dressed as Tinkerbell.
Cute.
Because I have to work, so I'm still going to work dressed up.
Good. Uh-oh.
I opened up my Google Docs app and, like, nothing happened, and I was like, where are my notes?
Oh, that's scary.
It just took a second to load. Everything's fine. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about something not really local, but sort of, kind of. So
Okay.
I had no idea what I was going to do. So last night I was at work, and I was sitting next to Casey, and you know, Michelle was behind the bar. And so I asked Casey, I was like, well, do you have any, like, you know, spooky ghost stories you can tell me? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, do you, like, is there a way I can research it? And he was like, well, no, this is, like, happened to me personally. And I was like, okay, we'll put a pin in that. I'll, you know, interview you on this on a different day, but, like, I've got to have this done by tomorrow. So, but Michelle, who's one of my bartenders, was like, well, I have something you can talk about. And she said, like, her uncle was involved in it somehow. I think.
Okay.
I was a little tipsy, I'm not gonna lie.
Fair enough.
It was pretty, but she sent me this link to something called the Lake Club Ghost.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
the Lake Club on Foxbridge Road, near Lake Springfield in central Illinois, opened as a nightclub in 1940 when two dance promoters, Harold Henderson and Hugo Giovagnoli, renovated the building and opened it for business as the Lake Club. The club became one of the hottest night spots in Illinois, drawing customers from all over the state. It had a raised dance floor surrounded by a railing, curved walls, and a, quote, swanky atmosphere that made patrons feel as though a New York club had been transported to the shores of Lake Springfield, end quote.
Fancy.
The owners concentrated on bringing big-name entertainment to the club. Top performers included Bob Hope, Ella Fitzgerald, Guy Lombardo, Pearl Bailey, Spike Jones, Nelson Eddy, Woody Herman, Mickey Rooney, and many, many others.
Okay.
During the height of its popularity, the club even hosted a radio call-in show that broadcasted music and entertainment all over the area. The Lake Club thrived for nearly 2 decades, becoming known not only for its entertainment, but for its gambling as well. Wealthy customers and the society elite of Springfield and Decatur frequented the club for musical guests and also and the billiard tables, craps, gaming tables, slot machines, and card games. This part of the club operated in secret in the back part of the building, known only to the high rollers and special customers. However, in December of 1958, the golden days of the Lake Club came to an end, because 2 undercover detectives had gained access to the gambling rooms. The club was immediately shut down, although while the raid was happening, patrons kept eating and dancing while it was going on.
Love that.
Newspaper accounts reported the police confiscated all sorts of gambling equipment, including tables, dice, slot machines, large quantities of cash, and the billiards tables were so large they had to be dismantled to get them out of the room.
Oh, dang.
So, of course, after the events of the raid, business began to falter, and the place finally closed down in the 1960s. Giovagnoli blamed the failure of the club on the gambling crackdown, but he did refuse to give up. Despite his partner Harold Henderson's death in 1977, Giovagnoli opened the club again, with other parties managing different projects in the building. The next part of the club's history was that it was managed by Bill Carmine and Tom Blasco as a rock club. And then 1980, it was leased by Pat Tavine, who also operated it as a rock club until 1988, when it finally did close down for good.
Okay.
And it was in August of 1979 that the Lake Club and then known in 1980 when the story came out as the, quote, Sober Duck Rock and Disco Club. I do think the Lake Club was a much better name.
They tried.
But I do love the idea of Sober Duck Rock. I don't know what that is, but I need to.
I feel like it's one of those things, like, I don't know what that means, but now I'm intrigued. So like, let's go.
You've piqued my interest. What is Sober Duck Rock? Please tell me. So yes, it gained national notoriety, and it was at this time that the ghost of Albert Rudy Cranor was finally put to rest. According to many of the patrons and staff members who had experiences there, the haunting of the Lake Club first began in 1974.
Okay.
At the time, the club was in the midst of a revival and interest, and the business was under the ownership of Tom Blasco and Bill Carmine, who were booking rock acts into the club, but the building itself at this point was still owned by Hugo Giovagnoli and Harold Henderson. Bill Carmine was the first to notice that something strange was going on. Both he and Tom had experienced cold chills in the building, heard odd sounds, got the feeling of being watched in certain rooms. One afternoon, he came into the club and sat down at the bar. He suddenly heard the sound of a piano being played in the other room. So when he went to go and check it out, as soon as he stepped into the room, the music stopped and the room was completely empty. Weird things continued to happen. Bill Carmine used to go like Monday nights to go over the receipts of that from the weekend. But he would often hear a door near the office open and footsteps crossing the floor. And whenever he would go to see who was there, the hall was completely empty. He also remembered a salesman visiting his office one evening when a glass flew off of a table and hit the wall on the opposite side of the room. The salesman left in a hurry.
Yeah, I imagine so.
By 1976, the haunting had intensified and things began happening more often in front of more witnesses. One time a bartender was pouring a drink when the glass in front of him suddenly shot up in the air and landed over his shoulder. A waitress also experienced the antics of the ghost one night when she went to serve a drink to a customer, only to find the glass inexplicably filled with chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be filled with worse things.
But just like randomly. Like, I think this ghost was just fucking around.
You know what? True. Like, same. If I was a ghost, I would just fuck around.
So Bill Carmine was the first of the club staff to guess the identity of the ghost who was at the club. He recalled that a former employee had committed suicide in the building several years before. He started calling the ghost by the man's name, Rudy. So Albert Rudy Cranor had worked at the Lake Club during its heyday in the 1940s and 50s. He was described as being well-liked and popular with the entertainers and the customers. He was a large man, had snow-white hair, and he was remembered as one of the club's most memorable characters. And even 50 years later, when people talk about him, they often speak very fondly of him, called him a nice man, and their favorite bartender.
Aww.
Which is so sweet.
Yeah. It's a nice way to be remembered.
Yeah. After the club fell on hard times following the gambling raid, Rudy also began experiencing some personal difficulties. It was said that he was a very private person, so no one really knew what was going on. But they did notice he began to drink heavily while on the job. I just do that normally. So there's that.
Yeah, that in common.
They also began to notice other changes. He seemed more tired than usual. He had dark circles under his eyes. And one night he became so sick that he had to be rushed to the hospital, and like people had to carry him out of the building. He returned to the club after a 2-week stay in the hospital, but it was said that he was never the same again. Don't know why, but yeah, apparently after the 2 weeks in the hospital, he was just never the same. On June 27th, 1968, Rudy shot himself in one of the back rooms of the club, and no one was ever sure why he did it. The strange events at the club continued in the form of weird antics and pranks, which, I mean, if he was a bartender there, he is probably just fucking around, like filling the glasses with chocolate, like...
This is silly.
he's having a good time.
Silly goofing.
But yeah, so there were weird antics and pranks. One night, Tom Blasco placed a pile of tablecloths on an empty table and left the room. When he came back, the tablecloths were on the floor. He picked them up and left again, only to return moments later to find them once again on the floor. And this was repeated several times back and forth until Blasco finally gave up and just left them on the floor.
All right. I mean, truly, what else you got there?
Employees and visiting musicians also reported strange occurrences like doors opening and closing by themselves, the sound of footsteps in empty rooms, a drink that lifted off a table and was then dumped in the customer's lap, office equipment that operated on its own, and feelings of being poked by unseen hands, just like poke. Although a slightly more frightening event happened in the summer of 1977 when Barbara Lard, who was a waitress at the club, had an encounter with Rudy. She was working one evening and went to the bathroom behind the back office, and as she came out, she glanced over the back bar and saw Rudy looking at her. She described what she saw as a head hanging there in space, and although she could see through it, the head appeared lifelike. She said that the apparition had snow white hair, and this was like another note. She had never known, heard about, or even seen a photograph of Rudy before, so she wasn't just like
going off what she knew.
Yeah, like she didn't know what he looked like. The apparition looked at her for a moment and then spoke, telling the waitress that one of the owners of the club was going to die. Barbara ran out of the room in tears, visibly shaken and close to hysterics. Other staff members who saw her that night reported that she was very frightened and she was not a person known for being hysterical or easily frightened.
Uh-huh.
Tom Blasco later stated that he went back into the room after and claimed to feel the same bone-chilling cold that he always associated with Rudy's spirit. Now, Barbara did later say she felt like the message wasn't a threat, but like a warning.
Yeah.
Like just kind of like a heads up. Like,
yeah.
This is gonna happen.
That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
So
Tom Blasco and Bill Carmine were more than a little unnerved by the ghost warning. They had no doubt that the ghost was real and the club was genuinely haunted. They also had no reason to doubt that Barbara's encounter had been... they had no reason to doubt that her encounter had been real.
Yeah.
Basically, like, they had no reason
to doubt her.
Yeah. They believed her. Her description of Rudy Cranor had been too accurate to have been imagined. The two men waited, and were probably basically, they were just kind of like waiting to see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And were being a little careful, like when driving or climbing ladders. They were just taking a little extra precaution. But then 2 weeks after the incident, Harold Henderson, one of the original owners of the nightclub, died at the age of 69. He was still the owner of the building itself and was the owner that Rudy would have known during his lifetime. Right. So it wasn't about Bill and Tom. Yeah. It was about Harold.
Yeah.
And he just passed away. So all that he was saying was like, this is going to happen. Like,
yeah, he's
going to die. And then he did.
Huh. Told you so.
I always forget you can hear the train from your house.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel...
It gets lots of noises here. Trains, church bells, helicopter every now and then.
The animals.
Yeah. The neighbors. A regular noise machine area.
Yeah, I don't get so many noises at my house. The most noise I hear is people hunting.
So just guns.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if I hear a gun, I'm worried.
No, if I hear a gun, I'm like, that's a normal Sunday morning.
Okay.
Trying to think any other noises, because even like occasionally my dogs will bark at like a squirrel or something, but I mean, we have coyotes, or no. Is it coyotes? Yeah.
We're coyotes, yeah.
I can't remember if it was coyotes or the other thing. Hyenas.
I don't think we have hyenas.
No, I don't think we do either. I think I get coyotes and hyenas confused sometimes, and don't ask me how.
Okay. I'll give you that one.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, even like coyotes don't make a ton of noise. Cicadas are really the loudest thing.
Yeah, we get some of those here.
We haven't had cicadas in so long. Like, I feel like I haven't heard cicadas in ages.
They're only like, every so many years?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Because, like, I used to think, like, cicadas were, like, in every year. Because I would hear cicadas, like, every single summer. And then just all of a sudden, I was like, I don't even think I've seen a cicada.
I think there might be different species that are, like, on a different time frame. That could be making that up, though. I don't know. I don't know much about cicadas.
Me either. Okay, well, after that little tangent, I think the train is done, so we're going to get back into it. So this incident had shaken Blasco more than anyone else. He spent 2 weeks living in fear for his life and felt it was time to get rid of the ghost, if possible. Perhaps Rudy...
Did nothing to him.
I know! Perhaps Rudy had been trying to be helpful with his warning, but Blasco didn't care.
Well, you know what? You dude.
He contacted a woman who he knew who was interested in the occult, and she suggested that he ask a priest for help. Blasco was a practicing Catholic, but when he contacted his parish priest, the man declined to become involved. He suggested that Blasco pray for Rudy on his own, and Tom spent the next 6 months carrying a rosary around the club with him. And it basically did nothing.
Oh, shocker.
So finally...
Thanks, priest.
Yeah. So that's going to be our next shirt. It's going to be Ugh Richard and Thanks Priest.
Yeah.
Finally, in 1979, Blasco attended a high school class reunion and ran into one of his former classmates, Reverend Gary Dilley, a priest who now lived in Fort Worth, Texas. Tom mentioned the problems at the club to Father Dilley, and the priest was intrigued.
Oh.
And after arriving at the club, Father Dilley also sensed something out of the ordinary. He experienced some unexplained cold chills and felt as if someone was watching him. He said in a later interview, quote, "I also had the feeling that someone was trying to communicate with me," end quote. The priest questioned several of the club's employees and found that their stories were very similar. He was convinced that something was going on, but he declined to do like an exorcism of the club. To do that, the case would require a thorough investigation and permission from the local bishop, which he doubted he would get because it wasn't like really...
Isn't he a reverend? Can he even do an exorcism? Okay. But you have to go to like...
Also, it's not
Catholics to do that.
Isn't like an exorcism for like to expel demons out of a body?
Yeah.
So it like isn't even the right thing to do.
Thanks, priest.
It's just not even the correct move at all.
Exorcism, the solution to everything in religion.
But yes. So he decided to instead bless the place and pray there, hoping this would perhaps put Rudy to rest. Father Dilley contacted 2 other priests to take part in the ceremony, Father John Corridado of Kankakee and Father Gerald Leahy of Griffin High School in Springfield.
Hey.
The 3 priests went from room to room, blessing each with holy water and prayer. They asked that any negative spirits depart from the building, and they prayed specifically for Rudy Cranor. They entered the room in which he had committed suicide and prayed that his spirit be at rest. So after that, the same people who considered the club to be haunted, so the employees, the owners, everybody, they were now sure that Rudy had departed. They weren't experiencing anything else. So the day of the religious ceremony was the last day when anyone was aware of Rudy's presence in the building. Once Rudy was gone, some staff members realized they hadn't minded his ghost as much as they thought they once had, or as much as they had once thought. In a 1980 newspaper interview, Tom Blasco, who is the one who started all of this,
Don't you even say what you're about to say.
said, quote, "In a way, I sort of miss Rudy. We were all fond of him. It's been pretty quiet since the priests were here. Sometimes I wish that I hadn't asked them to come," end quote.
Oh my god.
Either way, Rudy finally found some peace and a release from his suffering somewhere on the other side. In August of 1992, the Lake Club was deliberately set on fire and the building was destroyed.
Oh.
And I found no more information on the fire.
Just arson and then the end.
Like, nothing else. Don't know who set the fire. Maybe it was Michelle's uncle. Maybe that's the involvement.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I don't think Michelle's uncle set it on fire. Also, I don't even know that it was her uncle that was involved. I really don't know.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's definitely a story I did not know anything about.
Yeah.
So that was fun. He wasn't a negative spirit, though.
No, he was just living his best life. He was
Goofy.
He was just having a good time. He was messing with the bartenders. He was a bartender. That's what bartenders do. You mess with each other. It's all fun here.
Justice for Rudy.
Yeah. Rudy deserved better, honestly.
Yeah. I hope he's haunting a better place. He set it on fire.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Just because no one heard from him since the...
Maybe he was like, oh, they're trying to get rid of me? Fuck you guys. I'll bounce.
And then he came back and was like, you know what?
Actually, a bad ghost now. She was turned to the dark side. All because of priest. Don't we all?
They do that. Where's your wheel?
I will be right back. You know what? You ask good questions, Skylar.
I noticed at the beginning that it was gone, and then I just kept forgetting to ask you about it. I was like, oh.
I totally forgot it.
But yes, this has been Paranormal.
We haven't done it in a while.
We really haven't. So I do like that we got it in October. Like, that was very, very nice.
A good way to say goodbye to October. The best month. Oh, well.
Well, shall we find out what we're doing next week?
Yes. Okay. What did we get?
So we got culture, travel, language.
Yes, which it has been a minute for that too, also, I think.
Yeah, I think the last one I did was Italian. Or was it German? I don't remember which one I did last. I think it was Italian.
Okay.
I think. Maybe.
One of those, probably.
One of them.
It's been a minute, though. Either way.
So, yes, we'll be doing... So, basically, if you're new, culture, travel, language, that's basically... We kind of have it set up to where me, being a little language nerd, like to... teach a lesson on a language that I'm completely self-taught in.
Yeah.
And then Brittany will either talk about like the culture of that place or like travel destinations, usually a mix of both. And we kind of do a little together episode and like match it.
Yeah. It's a little learning episode.
Yes. And we'll be drinking white wine.
Okay. That seems fitting.
It kind of does, yeah.
All right.
But yes, so this has been our paranormal episode, and we will see you next week with culture, travel, language. And if you would like to find us as a duo, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all at Sip and Spin Pod. If you would like to email us, you can email us at sipandspinpod@gmail.com. If you'd like to find Brittany, you can find her at Whimsy Dream or Whimsy Dreams. If you'd like to find me, you can find me at Gleam YKS. But as always, the 3 link trees for the show, for myself and for Brittany, will be down in the description below. And of course, we will have some extra links in the description like we talked about. Probably, we'll have the link to that one TikToker we talked about, just so, since we, talked about her and want to give her some credit for being a good content creator. And also as well as links to, like, tweets, especially, like, threads that I found, like, that show places you can help, Palestine. So definitely, if you don't usually look at our description, this one would be a really good time to do that. Please check those links out, especially the ones for Palestine. Like, I'll get a couple links together that we're gonna put in the description. So please, please, please check those out.
Yes. And as always, we thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you.
And we'll sip with you next time.
Bye.
Happy Halloween weekend.
Happy Halloween weekend.
Be safe. Make good choices.
Bye. Brittany's mothering you all.